Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Moscow here with another beer review for you, and for this one I'd like to welcome you to my 250th beer review. So a big thank you to all of those of you who've subscribed to the channel, commented, any kind of support you've put into this channel. I greatly thank you for it. And for this review I've actually saved a beer that's very special to kind of celebrate my quarter millennia, if you like. So for this one we're going to go back to Belgium, which is my first Belgian beer review in quite a while, and we're going to go to the Westvleteren Trappist Brewery, and we're going to have a taste of number 12, which is a quadruple. And this brewery is actually really cool because you're supposed to have to go up to the monastery and buy this directly from them themselves. They don't sell to sort of commercial outlets, although I bought this from a bar in Leiden in the Netherlands, and the guy drives down to the monastery, buys a crate of it and takes it back to his bar. And you can only do this every 60 days. You only get one crate of beer per 60 days that you go down there, so it's quite an intense thing to actually do to get a hold of this beer. So I'm really glad that I managed to buy it, and I think I paid like 8 or 9 euros for this bottle, which it's expensive, but for your quarter millennia beer review, who cares, it's worth it. But anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews, then I'll take you through a brief history of the brewery and the monastery that's attached to it in this case. But as always, if you are simply interested in the tasting, just fast forward a few minutes into the video and you will catch that. And the brewery website and the monastery website are in the video description for you below, so check those out if you are interested. So anyway, this beer, as I said to you, is brewed at the Cistercian Abbey of Saint-Sixtus in Westvleteren, West Flanders, Belgium, and this is a Roman Catholic monastery. But apparently the abbey is particularly famous for its spiritual life of prayer, reading and manual work, and these are the 3 elements of Trappist life. So the monastery in its current form was founded in the year 1831 by monks who came from the Katzberg Monastery in France, and the monastery is actually just located over the Belgian border, probably quite near Ypres actually, just in that little sort of western corner of Belgium, if you like. But there was apparently a monastic presence on this site of the current St. Sixtus monastery since 1260, although there's also a mention of the Cello Bobarna in a creed from the Abbey of St. Omer, and this is dated in the year 806. At that time, though, the monastery was apparently known as the Fletrinio. I'm sorry for my Latin pronunciation there. But there was a small sisterhood also attached to the Katzberg monastery between the years of 1260 and 1355 before the site was actually abandoned and they moved to the St. Sixtus monastery. But there is, however, documentation of a Brigittine monastery on the area known as the Father's Corner, which is the old site, or another old part of this St. Sixtus monastery. So there seems to have been a very sort of religious presence in this area of Belgium. But as mentioned earlier, the St. Sixtus monastery, as it is now, was founded in the year 1831, and this was by Jan Baptist Victor and a few monks in the woods of the St. Sixtus, and this later developed into becoming the Trappist Abbey that it is known as today. But the brewery was founded in the year 1838 inside the Abbey precinct, and the following year a primary school and the old church of the Priory was constructed. But a group of the Westvleteren monks actually left in 1850 and founded the Scourmont Abbey near Kime, and this of course is one of the other Belgian Trappist breweries. But in 1871 the Priory was granted the status of abbey by Pope Pius IX, and in the years following the monastery actually developed a model farm which was used to model all the other ones in the area surrounding the monastery. They were very good farmers apparently, these Cistercian monks. But during the First World War, the abbey actually provided refuge to many from the surrounding region, and apparently 400,000 Allied soldiers were living in and around the abbey actually. And what you'll remember if you know your First World War history, Belgium was pretty much overrun by the Germans who wanted to invade France in the First World War, and it was only a very small corner of Belgium in the very sort of westish part on the coast that they managed to hold off. Ypres is a very famous city in that regard because the British, French and Belgians fought damn hard to actually hold on to this place. And I should say the Canadians as well, because there were Commonwealth troops there, but they fought damn hard just to keep this small corner of Belgium. But the brewery actually here was the only Trappist brewery to retain its copper vessels, and this of course was due to the fact that it was never occupied by the Germans. And what the Germans did in the other breweries was they actually salvaged the metal to use in their war effort, if you like, from these other Trappist breweries. But the brewery actually began selling their beer to the public after the First World War in 1930. 1931, and they previously only reserved beer for giving it to guests, or presented beer to guests and visitors to the monastery, so it was quite a unique thing that they sold beer at this point in 1931. But the Second World War was far more difficult for the brewery, and afterwards the abbot actually decided to reduce the capacity of the brewery to 4,800 hectolitres of beer per year, and in 1964 they actually added a guest house and then a new abbey church in 1968 to the brewery, and that I believe is the last building developments that they've done, apart from sort of internal renovations and things like that. But as is the case with all Trappist breweries, they brew beer simply to cover the running costs of the monastery and stuff like that, and I think they do donate any profits, if you like, to charity. A couple of the other Trappist breweries do that. But during the Second World War they stopped selling beer to wholesalers, and they actually, as I mentioned to you earlier, they will only sell beer to people in person at the brewery in the visitors centre and cafe that's actually opposite the monastery. But purchasing of the beer is limited to a 124 crate per car, and there must also be a 60-day limit, or a 60-day period, sorry, between each customer that comes to the monastery. They take all your details down and make you prove that you've not been there in the last 60 days so that people can get the beer, because obviously because of this reason that it's quite rare, it means it gets very popular, so it is quite hard to get a hold of this beer. But hopefully I will get the chance to go and visit the monastery one time and try the other two beers. But the other two beers, as I mentioned to you earlier, that you get from this brewery, obviously you've got this guy here, the number 12, there's also the number 8 and the blonde beer as well, so some really interesting stuff coming out of this brewery. But let's get on with my 250th beer review here. I'm really looking forward to actually getting this guy out and reviewing it for you. Sorry, I can't speak. I'll just bring up the camera and just let you have a little closer look at the bottle, although it is quite simple. You can just see on the glasswork around there, it does say, it says Trappiston. Yeah, Trappiston beer. Yeah, Trappiston beer, which obviously is I think it's Dutch that this would be. Trappiston, yeah, Trappiston beer would be in the Dutch language, and I'll just let you have a look at the bottle cap once more so you can see. I'm having problems with the light on this video actually. It's kind of playing around there. I'll just put this down a little bit and I believe you can see it a bit better. You can just see the bottle cap there. If I hold it back a little bit, that's a better view. I'm just holding it too close. But let's get this guy out and get on with the tasting there. I'm sorry for my kind of mucking around there, but really looking forward to this beer. So a 10.2% quadruple. So a really nice smoky opening there. Nice bubbles coming out on this one. We'll obviously just need to be very careful with this. You always have to expect a big head on Belgian beer. So we'll just pour it very, very slowly and try and get it all out and into the glass. But a really nice looking head actually coming out on this guy. We'll just sugar up the last little bit and get anything else, any sediment that's out in there. So, as you can see, a really nice dark mahogany rosewood coloured beer. I really don't know what's going on with the light in this video. It's quite annoying actually. I'm just keeping an eye on the camera there as I'm pouring this beer. But yeah, as you can see, a really, really attractive looking beer. A big bumpy sort of beigey coloured head on this one here. I'll just bring this round so you can have a little look at it. But very, very beautiful looking beer. A nice solid 2 fingers of that big bumpy beigey head on there, which is really, really beautiful looking beer. But it's definitely a nice dark rosewood kind of chestnutty coloured beer. Maybe a little bit, maybe mahogany, but a very dark rosewood chestnut colour I would say. If I hold it up to the light, it does have just a little bit of a ruby tinge around it there. If I hold it up to that big light, maybe bring the light over here and just let you have a nice little look at that. There's not much in the way, oh there actually is quite a little bit of carbonation going up to the top of the head there, and as you can see it's kind of faded down just towards 1 finger now, and I think it actually looks a bit more creamy than beige actually now that it's kind of gone down a little bit. The beer must have been quite well mixed in with it, but let's give it a smell and see how we get on with this guy. Very sharp dark fruits coming out, so you've got kind of the figs and raisins and sort of figs, raisins, plums and things like that coming out with this guy. Very typical of sort of quadruple and double beers in Belgium, of course. But a lot of kind of dark fruits in there. Some dark caramel as well. Sniffed a little bit of that up. I'm having a nightmare with this video, really. But yeah, some bready and yeasty aroma too. It actually smells quite like rye bread actually. There's definitely some sort of cereal element to that. But it's got a nice kind of Christmassy spice coming out of it too, and there's definitely some sort of woody thing. It almost smells as if it's kind of cask aged. It's a nightmare actually, but a really interesting aroma with this guy. If you do get the chance to try this, well, it might only be a once in a lifetime thing, but definitely just try and take in the aromas with this guy. But the most prominent thing is definitely the sort of dark fruits that are coming out, some figs, some raisins, some plums. A nice oaky vanilla background in there, kind of on top of a kind of rye bread base actually. There is just a little hint of actually dark kind of burnt sugar and things in there, caramel roasted sugars too. So it's a really nice smelling beer actually. But let's give it a taste and see how we get on here. So cheers to my 250th review, and cheers to you guys as well for watching and supporting me. Very, very, very dark beer actually, really nice. Very well blended together just on first taste. Even with just that little sip, you're feeling the alcohol warmth kind of going down and through your chest. Absolutely beautiful. But yeah, a nice, really dark caramel malty base on top of a nice sort of rye bread cereal base there, and it's got just a little bit of kind of clove spice in it that comes out on the aftertaste too. Just on the end when you go through it, it starts to get that nice little wet mouth feel that I've talked about in a few of my videos. And it kind of brings out just the nice sort of dark fruits, the plums, raisins, figs. It's maybe not raisins actually, it's not quite sharp enough for raisins I would say. It's kind of a nice smooth dark berry fruit that's in there too. But I would stick to that. There's a nice caramel and roasted sugar, dark roasted sugar base in there as well, and it blends quite well with the sort of spicy and bready malt. It's almost like rye bread actually, this kind of malt base that's in there. It's a really nice spicy blend of beer. There's almost perhaps maybe a tiny little bit of clove spice in there. There is just that kind of sweet Belgian yeasty character that you might more associate with a Belgian white, but you pick up that trait once you've been tasting beer quite a little bit. You do pick up just a little trait of it, and it's really nicely done actually. I can see why this beer's kind of been rated as the best on Beer Advocate and Rate Beer and stuff like that. It's really just beautiful, you know. Some things are, you know, are just so good, and this is definitely it. It's just such a good beer. If you do ever get the chance to try this, you know, all I can say is definitely do it. You're opening up with a really nice dark roasted caramel brown sugar malt base in there. You get a little bit of the kind of dark berry and fig plum flavours there, and they come out just on that little kind of wet feel that comes out on the mouth after you go through it a little bit. But yeah, you're kind of, the caramel is just, everything's so well blended to this, it's actually quite hard to pick it out on the palate. You're just getting a nice bit of this kind of berry and fig flavour just kind of around the edge of the tongue there. The dark caramel is sitting just in the middle of the mouth. You're getting this nice alcohol warmth just going down there, which obviously you will when it's 10.5%. But in the mouth, you're also getting that nice sort of mix with the rye bread and just a little bit of spice in there on the bready malt base. And it just blends together so well. You go from a really dark caramel to this nice malty, bready rye malt base on this guy, and then you get the fruits just at the end. And then as you go through the aftertaste, it starts off fruity. The caramel is kind of quite quiet on the aftertaste actually, and then you just get this nice sort of rye bread spice coming out. It's so well blended, this beer. It's absolutely stunning. Really beautiful beer. Mouthfeel with this one, without a doubt, full bodied. It's actually very thick. It's got a really nice thick oily mouthfeel to it. The carbonation is quite moderate. It's quite normal for a Belgian beer actually. It's similar to the level of carbonation you expect in a double or usually a quadruple as well. But it's an absolutely stunning beer. It's quite slick, and it's got a really nice bit of alcohol warmth that kind of complements. It sort of complements the flavour that comes off from this nice rye bread and the nice, pardon me, roasted caramel as well. So really nice beer. So as I said with some of these reviews, just take a little bit of time and get used to the flavours that come out in this beer. This is crazily complex. You know, I might have missed a few things just going through this flavour, but it's absolutely stunning. Just enjoy this beer when you get the chance. I would stick with my assessment of that. A nice dark roasted caramel in the start. As the mouthfeel goes through it, you get the nice fig and red fruit flavours coming out just as the little sort of wet ball kind of moves towards the start of the tongue, and you've got this really nice kind of slightly spicy red rye malt base, maybe even just a little tiny bit of clove spice in there. It's got that nice sort of sweetness to the typical Belgian yeast sweetness that comes out a little bit later on. But an absolutely stunning beer. I highly recommend that you go to the Westvleteren brewery in Belgium and give this guy a try. I'm really honoured that I actually got to review this for you, and for a kind of numerically significant beer review anyway. But you know, I'm quite blown away by this beer. Absolutely magnificent. So I hope you've enjoyed my kind of ramblings on this beer. I've had a bit of a nightmare, as you've seen, with the light and then sniffing up the beer, then coughing at you over this video, but I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless, and I thank you again for your support over my 250 or so videos. I've really enjoyed doing these, and you know, it's really good to get to try all this different beer from all over the world. So I thank you again, and I will catch you soon with another beer review. If you're particularly interested in Belgian beer, I do have another 10 or so bottles of Belgian beer that I will review gradually for you over the next while. So as I say, please subscribe to the channel and you'll catch all these great beer reviews. I'll catch you soon with another one. Cheers.